Well, I remember when I was mayor, we were one of the first big cities to actually ban the box, and it was wildly controversial at the time. California is seeing cities all across the state do the same. We're doing the same for state employment. We're seeing increasingly companies do the same. Federal government, we're having that debate, and that's long overdue because you immediately check that box, felon, and you got a stack of resumes.
Yeah.
The likelihood of someone getting that job obviously is diminished exponentially. So that's the first place we can start. But look, at the end of the day, the vast majority of folks that are incarcerated are remarkably talented entrepreneurs. It's what got them in trouble in the first place. And it's taking that talent and taking that entrepreneurial energy and retooling it something that's relevant and meaningful. But at the end of the day, there's nothing more important if you want to reduce recidivism and reduce crime and violence than providing employment, providing skills, creating jobs, and taking the entrepreneurial talent, which we're so desperate in need of in this state and nation, and putting it to good use. But that entrepreneurialism disproportionately now lies in a virtual space. It's digitized more and more every single day. So it's fundamental to reducing crime and violence and recidivism that we focus on technology, focus on education, and focusing on meeting people where they need to be, not just where they are today, but where they'll need to be tomorrow, in a world where the vast majority of jobs that grade school students are going to enter into haven't even been invented yet.
Do you think it's the responsibility of the companies like the Googles and Facebooks and so forth of technology to actually lead the way in that and show?
Well, the bottom line is businesses can't thrive in a world that's failing. Businesses can't wall themselves off to society all around them. And so at the end of the day, it's in business's best interest to address the issue of criminal justice reform. I would argue as an elected official, I say this all the time, you want to get serious about economic development, get serious about criminal justice reform. Yeah. Criminal justice reform is economic development. And so it's in the interest of companies to get pools of talent and to invest in talent, invest in upskilling society. And so I think you're seeing leaders, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg and others that get it, working through Last Mile and others, they're starting to recognize their opportunity to participate and build these bridges and build a different kind of connectivity to folks that frankly have been marginalized. Folks that have been pushed in the shadows that increasingly society's recognizing have merit and have self-worth and have talents.
And you've been inside San Quentin several times. I'm not sure the first time we went in, you came to one of our demo days. What was your impression, not only of that, but just talking to the guys? I mean, did everyone, and I did before we started this program, I had a preconception of what that was.
Yeah.
What was your feeling about that?
Well, I've had friends at San Quentin. We were a foster family growing up. One of my foster brothers was in and out of San Quentin on multiple occasions. I've been in there for many, many years. When I was much younger, I've been to other parts of our prison system. What's important for folks to know, San Quentin is one of the most extraordinary prisons in the system. And it's interesting, most people would never believe that because it's death row. And so people connote certain standards at San Quentin that don't necessarily exist at scale. What's remarkable at San Quentin is its connectivity to the Bay Area and to so many philanthropists and volunteers that are committed to reform and committed to service. And as a consequence, we have the facility, the space, which doesn't necessarily exist, physical space, in other parts of the system where people can actually exercise that talent and that commitment and that resolve. And I think what people realize quickly when they go into these prisons is not everybody's an animal. Not everyone's a beast. Not everybody's a predator. While the vast majority of these people are in there for the right reasons, they did something wrong, that doesn't mean you need to write them off. And there's remarkably talented and gifted individuals, geniuses with extraordinary IQ, people that are genius in the context of their entrepreneurial talents and gifts, people that are musically talented, and people that are financially talented, people that have remarkable technological talent. And when I went to Last Mile and saw all that talent on display, you're thinking, well, am I in a prison or am I down in Palo Alto at some coding conference and everybody's out there showing off for the VCs? There were moments, that's not exaggerated, literally there were moments where you literally forgot where you were and who was in front of you. And that's a pretty extraordinary thing.
It really is. And some of the success we've had is in the marketplace reflects that.
Yeah, and it's just a mindset. It's a culture. It's about, just changing your approach and your belief system, which is difficult. But we're, as I say, hitting a tipping point that's non-ideological in this country. It's not just folks on the left. It's not just progressives that are out there calling for these reforms. It's conservatives. It's Grover Norquist and the tax revolt folks. It's folks even like Newt Gingrich that have been on the leading edge saying, enough of this. Looking at it from a perspective, sort of a biblical perspective, second chances, or looking at it purely from a fiscal conservative perspective of, I'm just sick and tired of wasting all this money, that are saying, you know what, we've got to focus on reform, we've got to focus on recidivism, which means we've got to focus on getting into these prisons and making them real rehabilitation hubs. And you can't rehabilitate unless you're focusing on job and job readiness, and you can't do that unless you're focused on technology. And that's why this is so fundamental to those reforms.
What we found, sitting sort of in the middle of this, it's one of the few bipartisan issues.
Yeah.
So, ironically, could this be a rallying cry for Republicans and Democrats to finally do something together? Because it's been difficult. Do you find that also? Because we've been hit by Republicans, Democrats, doesn't matter. They're all interested in this.
No, it's an amazing moment in history. I don't know how long this will continue. I'm just so hopeful that it does. The fact that we have op-eds written with very progressive Democrats and very conservative national leaders saying enough is enough. This prison binge needs to end. We have to focus more robustly on rehabilitation and focusing on developing skills. I think we're at that point now where people are coming together in ways we never could have imagined, and frankly, in ways that outside of the focus on criminal justice, we really aren't. It's just an interesting area where there is increasing bipartisanship and increasing consciousness. Again, coming from different perspectives, but ending up at the same place. And that's why I just think California has such a unique responsibility. Again, we in many respects led the nation and put us in this position in the first place, aided by this national war on drugs, which fundamentally flamed the fires of so much of this. But now we are in the leading edge of reform, and no large part or small part to what Last Mile is doing and others. Involved in trying to get our K through 12 education system and the A through G requirements, which are necessary to get into our UC and California state system, to swap out one of the math courses and allow for computer coding course. Other states do that, California does not. And the reason we're promoting that is we're only graduating a few thousand folks with these skills, these coding skills a year, and yet today we have close to 100,000 job openings in coding and in computer science. And we know this well, that we have a huge problem with the lack of women in coding and minorities in coding. So here is such an extraordinary opportunity to focus our energies where they're needed most, investing in women, investing in creating opportunities for minorities by investing in our prisons and developing these skills so that we can mind that gap and close that gap in terms of the desperate needs of the private sector and the desperate gaps that the public sector is institutionalized because of our lack of energy and focus on this issue.
How would you envision or imagine that you could make it easier in some respects? Obviously we're very motivated in this issue. For us, it's a lifetime commitment. But for many private sector companies, they'll hit a wall and they're like, okay, forget it, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of bureaucracy in the prison system.
Sure.
Not easy. So no one said this is easy, but
No.
Frankly, that worthwhile is ever easy. But it's profound and it's life-changing, not just for the individuals people are supporting, but for the folks that are supporting those individuals, because you feel empowered, you feel enlivened, you feel like it matters, the sort of bigger it of what it's about, what's life about.
Yeah.
It's about those magical moments. It's about taking someone's story, and we all have a story, and making it a little bit better. And that's the whole point of it. And so I don't know that there's anything more special than finding that connection to someone that, frankly, most of your life you've been completely disconnected from. that frankly you may have even had a subconscious bias toward, that manifested every single day in the way you interact with certain folks and certain cultures, and then break down those barriers, those institutionalized barriers that exist within you, and then find a different capacity and compassion that ultimately inures to transforming someone else's life. That's a pretty special thing.
What's your view on issues of incarceration in America, just generally?
Well, I mean, we've gone through this mass incarceration, so my frustration is self-evident that we're wasting billions and billions of dollars. We're destroying hundreds of thousands of lives, and we've got a real crisis, an epidemic of over-incarceration in this country that doesn't exist in any other country anywhere in the world. And so I think we finally hit a tipping point of consciousness. I think we've hit a point where people are starting to reconcile their own participation in mass incarceration, because it's happened on our watch. It's happened during our lifetime. And it's a phenomenon that we have all in some way, shape, or form participated in.
I couldn't be more honored, more pleased to be here with all of you, more honored and pleased with so many of the champions that are with us. And no further ado, I just want to launch with one of our great champions on not just the issue of racial justice and social justice, but someone who helped advance the moment we celebrated last year around police accountability and so many other extraordinary causes related to racial justice and reconciliation. And that's Dr. Shirley Weber. And Dr. Weber, let's mark this moment, point deep pride for the work you did to get this bill down to my desk and to work with so many constituencies and stakeholders to make this bill possible and to get the support, the broad support, including Republican support, a bipartisan bill on reparation, proving a paradigm that we hope will be resonant all across the United States. Dr. Weber, thank you so much. Turning it over to you.
Thank you, Governor Newsom. I'm really honored to be here and appreciative of the fact that you're signing AB 3121 as well as AB 3070. This is an extremely important time for all of us because we know California tries to lead the way in terms of civil rights, and we have a responsibility to do that. And oftentimes people will say, well, why can't we wait for the federal government to do its part? And I think most folks have waited a while, but we know that California can lead the way, that we can demonstrate what it is to talk about reparations and to try to repair people's lives that we have obviously had a negative impact. California has come to terms with many of its issues, but it has yet to come to terms with its role in slavery. And the fact that that many of our families, my family came to California because they thought this was a golden state with tremendous opportunity. And it was in comparison to coming from Hope, Arkansas. But they also had to come to realization that this state has deeply rooted issues about race and slavery, and that we can demonstrate in what we do through all of our institutions of what it means to be enslaved, the negative impact, and how we need to repair individuals to do that. So we're talking about really addressing the issues of justice and fairness in this country that we have to address. I'm also grateful for the fact that we're also addressing the issue too, this time, of jury selection. We've done a lot of things that most of you mentioned, my bills on the police use of force and racial profiling and all these things we've done. And yet at the same time, we still have to deal with so many other issues, and the jury selection is extremely important. So 3070 is an extremely important bill, just like 2131, to begin to bring the kind of justice and fairness that is necessary. California has a tremendous opportunity. We're the 5th largest economy in the world, and which means if we can do it, others can do it also. And that becomes important as we make this issue an important issue that's there, to try to educate all Californians about the impact of slavery, that after 400 years, we still have that impact. And there's still a need and a necessary opportunity for us to begin to address that issue. So I'm very grateful to you, Governor, for basically seeing these two bills that were, that both of them end up being bipartisan, but the the one on reparations was even more bipartisan than the one on jury selection. And yet at the same time, we fought hard every step of the way. I want to thank you for your support in influencing those who eventually at some point had to come across the line. Thanking the Supreme Court justices who helped us to make this a better bill, that to push forward with so many others fighting against us every step of the way for 3070. You know, I always take the hard things in life, and that's what I do because it's important. After spending 40 years as a professor and a founder of Africana Studies at San Diego State, I know the importance of reparations. I know the importance of history, of getting our information correct, and basically beginning to move California forward. I want to thank all of those who are online, as well as so many others. You know, my caucus is here, the Black Caucus. I chair the Black Caucus, and we have been a force this year in terms of social justice and equal opportunity and change. We have pushed the hard bills forward. We have stood strong as a caucus to not only deal with these issues, but as you know, ACA 5, coming forward with Proposition 16 to restore affirmative action to California. Those things are critical. And this caucus has stood firm on every one of those issues. And so I want to thank my caucus members who've come in today. We're a small caucus. We're one of the smallest caucus. There's only 10 of us. Yet we are 10 powerful individuals making a difference in California. And I want people to understand that there are only 10 African Americans in the legislature, the Senate and the Assembly. And yet we as a force, a collective force, have pushed forth the kind of legislation that really makes a difference. And we thank our colleagues for joining us from the Chicano Caucus, the API Caucus, the Women's Caucus, who've joined us in making a difference. I want to thank, I see one of our real champions, Ice Cube, who's online, who's on with us today. I want to thank him also for all of his tweets and all of his words that came forward to push us to say, listen, the nation is watching and we need this to be done. And so I'm so appreciative of not only you taking time to do that, but you're taking time out of your day to be with us. So I'm very proud of the fact that we have 2 bills that will really make a difference in California. And we have so many others that are on our list that are also being signed by the governor. But to sign 3121 is groundbreaking for the United States. To basically say this state is going to deal with the issue of reparations, and we're going to make a difference as a result of it, and truly focus upon this issue that has been a part of California's issue. And of course, 3070 to really begin to change jury selections in California is critically important. So I'm excited about being here today. I want to thank you so very much, all of you who worked so hard on this bill, my staff, the members of the caucus, the other staff persons who worked hard, the governor's office to get this bill forward, to get it done, and to get it now to be getting it signed in California makes a tremendous difference. It is going to be an exciting opportunity with both of these bills to make a difference and to begin to move the agenda. I want to let people know, first of all, that this bill, both of these bills were done before the Floyd incident, was done before the pandemic. I want you to understand that, because some people think these are issues that just came forward and it was the right time at the right moment. These bills were done last year. We authored these bills at the end of last year, and we were pushing these bills forward when all of the issues of the COVID virus and everything else came forward. So this is not just because of the circumstances we face. What happens, of course, is those circumstances reinforced the fact that what we were saying all along was true, that we needed to deal with these issues that in terms of our community, but these did not come because of that. But they help to reinforce the fact that this is truth and that it's a necessity for us to address it. So I want to make sure that's clear, because some people think we're just responding to the moment. We're responding to the history of California and the life of Black people in California and in this nation that has to be addressed every day, and not simply because we're obviously faced with the challenge of trying to appease individuals to make them believe that we're going to move forward. This is because of the necessity.
What an honor. What an honor it is to be able to get to speak to you all on this historic occasion. I am the executive director of the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights based in Oakland, California, and I'm here mostly to talk as one of the co-sponsors of the Racial Justice Act, but I would be remiss to not acknowledge Dr. Weber's leadership, not just in terms of the Racial Justice Act as the co-author, but for Assembly Bill 3121. As a descendant of people enslaved in this country, as the grandson of grandparents who fled racialized terror from Osaka, Mississippi, and came here to California and experienced discrimination and worse still on this West Coast. I am just incredibly appreciative of your leadership. But I mostly want to speak about the bill that we co-sponsored, this Racial Justice Act. And I want to be honest with y'all, because I didn't believe we would make it this far with this act, if I'm being honest, Assemblymember Carver. Yeah. Because, you know, seeing racial disparities is what led me to this work. I went to Harvard as an undergrad, and I saw just how differently young people could be treated when they were in that esteemed institution versus my friends and family in East Oakland, often for doing some of the same things. And being an advocate and having learned about this work, I know that it's not just across races, but also among races that these racial disparities show up. So even among African Americans, the lighter your skin is, the lighter your sentence is likely to be. And that is something that I have had to really grapple with as a light-skinned African American. What is my charge in this movement? These disparities have seemed immutable, inchangeable, indestructible. When the Supreme Court in 1987 in McCleskey versus Kemp voted to uphold structural racism in our courts, our esteemed Justice William Brennan said, it seems that they have a fear of too much justice. But as Michelle Alexander said in her powerful Sacramento Bee op-ed, there is no such thing as too much justice. And we will challenge the racial injustice in the criminal court system. And the Racial Justice Act provides a mechanism to do that. To be honest, I never say criminal justice system, right? We always say criminal court system. But this bill gives me hope that one day we will have a justice system that deserves to have justice in its title. So I want to thank Assemblymember Kalra, Dr. Weber, all of the co-sponsors of this bill, American Friends Service Committee, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, California Coalition for Women Prisoners, Californians United for a Responsible Budget, the League of Women Voters, NextGen, United Domestic Workers, ASME Local 3930. All of us were driven by the experience of people who have been themselves injured by crushing racism, who themselves have been incarcerated or are currently incarcerated. We are attorneys, advocates. We are folks who are looking to and benefiting from an analysis that goes beyond white papers and really goes to our own experience.
If we're going to talk about racial justice package, then I got to consider one of the bills you put down to my desk, which I happen literally to have on my desk. And I might as well take this moment to acknowledge your leadership on that corporate board bill. When we talk about racial justice, we talk about empowerment, we talk about power. We need to talk about seats at the table. And Assembly Member, I'm looking forward to signing this bill in a moment as well. Why don't you talk a moment about it?
Well, first of all, thank you, Governor. I know that I'm very privileged to be serving with colleagues who have a vision about how the state can be an example for the rest of the country and the world. We have a president who cannot even deny racist groups in America. We are made to feel kind of heavy laden by that. But then I come to this meeting this morning, this conference, where you're signing bills that are definitely setting an example for the rest of this country to follow, and that I'm proud to live in a state that recognizes the needs of all of its people. And for a state to have over 600 corporations headquartered, it is far time past that we needed to have an opportunity to see people of color serve at the corporate board level, the directors level. And certainly the spirit of this bill, I believe, will cause companies to move quickly, to start bringing on headhunters who are headhunter groups that are owned and operated by people of color, African Americans, Latino, Asian. And this is an opportunity really to get people of color at the table where the decisions are made, where the culture is set, where opportunities for all people to have an opportunity to come through the front door and have a job opportunity throughout the organization. And I think this is a first of its kind, if you will, in the nation. And I'm proud that you are the governor that is showing the bold leadership to bring it to fruition. So I just thank you for your leadership. I thank my colleagues the CLBC for their endorsement of this bill and helping to move it along, for my joint authors, Christina Garcia, David Chu, and Eloise Reyes, as well as Senator Ben Hueso, and also the companies that jumped on very quickly, two in particular, HP and Bloom Energy, that are leading by example. When you put pen to paper on this bill, they will already be in compliance with the bill. And so I just want to recognize that. I want to recognize the 4 constitutional officers who have also weighed in support, Ricardo Lara, Betty Yee, Fiona Ma, and Alex Padilla, who will be a part of helping to give guidance to this bill as we go forward. So with that, without further ado, I would thank you, Governor, and we look forward to this new day in California as you complete these justice bills that are going to make a difference to addressing systemic racism and hopefully sending a good positive message across these 50 states.
I appreciate it, Senator. And thanks for bringing up HP and Bloom. It's interesting. CEOs of both those companies don't just support the bill. They were advocates. They tracked down my cell phone, got me on. They want to hear my voice. They made a strong case, strong argument. And that's very meaningful when you have leadership by example in those 2 iconic California-based companies. And so we do indeed hope others will take the spirit, not just the letter of the law, but the spirit of what we're trying to advance here and move forward. You've got an implementation strategy here that is a number of years. We don't need to wait 2, 3, 4 years for folks to move. They have the ability to do the right thing and do so now. And so I appreciate all of your energy and the privilege of getting this to my desk. Look, all of you, thank you again for everything you're doing. I see my old town district attorney in San Francisco. Thank you for joining as well and your strong advocacy for all of these bills. I can go now. I'm gonna get in trouble. Ann's there, Scott. Now I'm gonna Reggie. I'm gonna have to say hi to everybody. Shonda, Dan Seaman, who's on here, who did a lot of good work on this. Some of these bills. All of you, spectacular. And Ice Cube, I don't know how the hell he knew I was signing half these bills before I even told my staff. He said, "I'll see you tomorrow." I'm glad you're signing these things. So well done, and thank you for your advocacy as well. No further ado, let's just jump right in. And I got AB 3121, Dr. Weber, your bill, and we'll just start here by signing this.
Done deal.
Done deal. In the spirit, Dr. Weber, in the spirit of some of these bills and spirit of your comments and some of the comments from men, I think it was Pericles who said, "We do not imitate, for we are a model to the world." Now that's a little braggadocious, but it's in the spirit of Governor Brown quoting the Greeks. I think Pericles was the Athenian mayor who said that. And so I like the spirit of what you guys are saying. This is not just about California. This is about making an impact and a dent across the rest of the country. And that, I think, drives a lot of our work here in the state. And I know it drives a lot of the passion of many of you that are with us. AB 3070, again, in that same spirit. And Washington State's done a little work on this, and I want to thank them as well for their leadership. We got that bill signed as well. Thank you.
Good deal. Good.
And thank you. And Ush and someone, Carla, 2542.
Yes.
For all your hard work on this. Thank you for your perseverance, not giving up and giving in to the arbiters of the status quo. Well done, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you. And to someone holding 979. Well done, and builds on the work you guys did last year with Governor Brown or 2 years ago on gender equity on boards. Privilege for me to sign this bill as well. Congratulations, everybody.